It was a chilly Sunday morning in October in the quiet suburbs of Portland, Oregon. I, Emily, had just poured myself a cup of hot coffee and was getting ready to head out for my shift at the local bookstore. My husband, Jason, was already dressed in a crisp blue shirt, pacing around the living room with his phone glued to his ear. At first, I thought it was just a regular work call. He's a corporate lawyer, after all, always dealing with contracts and deadlines. But something about his tone caught my attention. He sounded nervous. I leaned slightly toward the hallway, pretending to tie my shoe, and that's when I heard it. "Don't worry, babe. I'll make up an excuse. She won't suspect a thing." My stomach dropped. Babe? That wasn't me. And that voice, it wasn't the usual confident Jason I knew. I stood up slowly and asked, "Who were you talking to?" Jason nearly jumped. His face went pale, then quickly shifted into that forced, practiced smile. "Oh, just a client. Big case coming up, you know how it is." But I knew that voice, that tone, that lie. I didn't push him right then. I acted normal, kissed him goodbye, and went to work like everything was fine. But inside, a storm was brewing. That evening, I pretended to be asleep on the couch. Jason walked into the kitchen and made another call. This time, I recorded it. And the words that came out of his mouth shattered every illusion I had left. "Yeah, she has no idea. I'll meet you at the lake house this weekend. Can't wait to see you again." He was cheating on me. But this wasn't just betrayal. It was war, and I was going to win. The next morning, I woke up with a fire in my chest. My world wasn't just shaken. It had cracked open. But I wasn't going to let Jason know I was onto him. Not yet. I started playing the long game. For the next few days, I smiled like nothing had changed. I laughed at his lame jokes, cooked dinner, even kissed him goodnight. But behind that smile, I was gathering ammunition. I checked our shared laptop, the one he thought I never used. Turns out, Jason wasn't just sloppy with his lies, he was careless with his secrets. There, in a folder marked Work Docs, were photos. Dozens of them. Him and a woman. Brunette, maybe mid-30s, hugging, kissing, even laying together on the porch of what I recognized as the lake house. And then I saw something that made my blood turn cold. A reservation confirmation. He had booked a romantic weekend for 2, next weekend. I printed out everything. Photos, emails, receipts. I even took a screenshot of his text messages that popped up on his iCloud. One of them read, "Can't wait to have you to myself all weekend. She's so clueless." Clueless? Oh, honey, you have no idea. I decided to visit the lake house myself, alone. I told Jason I was visiting my sister in Seattle. He bought the lie without hesitation. Once I got there, I knew exactly what to do. I cleaned the place up, stocked the fridge with wine, and made it look just right. Then I left one small surprise. A picture of me and Jason, framed, sitting right on the nightstand. Let the games begin. Friday evening rolled around, and sure enough, Jason headed out with a weekend bag and that smug little smirk he wears when he thinks he's outsmarted me. I waited until I saw his car turn off our street before I drove up to the lake house. I parked in the woods nearby and watched from a distance. Right on schedule, Jason pulled up around sunset. But he wasn't alone. A sleek black SUV followed behind him. Out stepped her, the mystery woman. She was prettier in person, but she had that overly polished, desperate to impress look. They laughed. He grabbed her hand, they kissed, and then they disappeared inside. I waited. Not long. About 20 minutes later, I quietly approached the front door, using the spare key I knew he kept hidden under a loose floorboard on the porch. I slipped inside without a sound. I could hear them in the kitchen, opening wine. She was giggling like a teenager. That's when I struck. I walked calmly into the living room and said, "Jason, darling, I hope I'm not interrupting your business retreat." The look on his face was priceless, a cocktail of fear, confusion, and guilt. She froze, wine glass in hand, eyes darting between us like a deer in headlights. I dropped the folder of printed photos and messages onto the coffee table. "You forgot these," I smiled sweetly. "Oh, and your toothbrush." Jason stuttered. She asked who I was. "I'm his wife," I said flatly. Her face turned pale. Jason reached for me like that would fix anything. I stepped back. "Don't. You've done enough." Then I walked out, calm, collected, like a woman who just burned the bridge and danced in the ashes. After that night at the lake house, I thought I was done with Jason. I thought walking away in control was the end of the story. But of course, Jason wasn't ready to let go. 3 days later, I came home from work to find him sitting in the dark on our living room couch. No text, no call, just him, uninvited. "I messed up," he said, voice low and pathetic. "Please, we can fix this. I'll do anything." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just looked at him and asked, "Did you love her?" His silence said everything. He started crying, rambling about mistakes and how it meant nothing, that it was a weak moment, that he was lonely. "I was here, Jason," I snapped, "every single day. You weren't lonely. You were bored." I told him to leave. He begged to stay, said he'd sleep on the couch. I didn't argue. Let him sit there in the wreckage he made. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how long I'd been living with a man I didn't even know. The next morning, I made my decision. I called my lawyer. I filed for divorce. I changed the locks. Jason showed up again that evening with flowers and some ridiculous speech he probably rehearsed in the car. I met him at the door, calm, cold, ready. "Go home, Jason," I said. "We're done." He looked shocked, like the consequences had finally become real to him. "I made a mistake," he shouted. "You made a choice," I replied. "Now I'm making mine." And I shut the door. A week after I kicked Jason out, I was finally beginning to breathe again. I wasn't healed, but I was steady, until I got a call from my sister Hannah. "You're not going to believe this," she whispered. "I saw Jason with her." My heart stopped. They were at a small diner on the edge of town, just sitting across from each other like nothing had ever happened, laughing, sharing pancakes. I wanted to scream. How could he move on so easily? Just days after begging me for forgiveness, I drove out there. Not to confront them. At least that's what I told myself. I just wanted to see with my own eyes. And there they were. Jason and her, Brianna, smiling, leaning in, like they were the main characters in some cheesy rom-com. I didn't go inside. I just sat in my car, hands clenched around the steering wheel, feeling like my chest might crack open. But then something shifted. I wasn't crying. I wasn't broken. I was angry. Not because Jason had betrayed me. I'd already processed that. But because he was rewriting our story, making me the bitter ex while he played the victim who found love. No, not on my watch. That night, I went home and pulled out my journal. Every lie, every red flag I ignored, every time I felt like I was shrinking to make him feel bigger, I wrote it all down, and then I posted it on Facebook. Public. No names, no direct accusations, just the truth wrapped in storytelling. It spread like wildfire. People reached out, some shared similar stories, some guessed the names, some didn't have to. Jason called me, furious, said I was ruining his life. I told him, I didn't ruin anything. You did. I just stopped covering for you. And for the first time, I felt peace. I thought the storm was over. I thought posting my truth would be the end of it. But betrayal, it seems, has a long reach. 2 nights after my Facebook post went viral, I got an anonymous message. "You think you know everything. You don't." It sent a chill down my spine. I didn't recognize the number. There was no name, no profile picture, just that one sentence. At first, I ignored it. Just another internet troll, I thought. But then another message came the next day. "You should check Jason's bank statements from last summer." Wait, what? I didn't have access anymore, but curiosity gnawed at me. I remembered he used to print his monthly statements and forget to shred them, so I tore through the box of old files in the garage. And there it was, 3 separate wire transfers, all to the same account, each for $2,000. Dates matched perfectly with the weekends he told me he was going on work trips. But the name on the account? Tiffany Granger. Who the hell was Tiffany Granger? I did what any woman would do. I Googled her, and just like that, the truth cracked wide open. Tiffany was a real estate agent in our city, blonde, smiling in every photo, and definitely not single. Her Facebook said, "Engaged to Jason Hale." I nearly dropped my phone. He wasn't just cheating on me. He had a double life. I spent 7 years thinking I was building a future with Jason. Turns out, I was his cover story. His side life. Tiffany probably didn't know about me either. She was posting engagement photos, planning a wedding. So I messaged her. I didn't want revenge. I just thought she deserved the truth. I sent screenshots, dates, photos of me and Jason, and I told her everything. She read it, then went silent. An hour later, she replied with 4 words, I'm so sorry. That night, Jason tried calling me again. I didn't answer. He wasn't just a liar. He was an architect of deception. And I was done playing a role in his twisted little drama. I didn't expect what happened next. A week after I messaged Tiffany, I got a knock on my door. Not a text, not a call, an actual knock. When I opened the door, it was her, Tiffany. She looked nothing like her glowing Facebook photos. Her eyes were swollen. Her cheeks were tear-streaked. She was holding a folder full of papers. I didn't know where else to go, she whispered. I let her in. We sat across from each other in silence, both of us still reeling from the same man's lies. She opened the folder. Inside were printouts, emails, photos, hotel receipts. He told me he was divorced. He even gave me fake court documents. Her voice trembled. I found out he used a Photoshop template. I couldn't believe it. Jason had gone so far as to forge divorce papers to keep his charade going. He promised we'd move to Florida after the wedding, start a new life. She looked down at the ring on her finger. But everything was a lie. I nodded. I'd been there. I was still there. Tiffany and I compared timelines. He overlapped our lives like clockwork. Her weekends were my late work nights. Her vacations were my family emergencies. He was living a split-screen life, and neither of us knew we were sharing the same movie. That day, we decided something. We weren't going to let him walk away from this untouched. Tiffany still had access to his shared drive. He had uploaded everything there: travel plans, love letters, even voice messages. We compiled it all, then we created a Dropbox folder, called it Jason's Greatest Hits, and we sent the link to everyone. His boss, his mom, his pastor, his fantasy football league. Within 24 hours, Jason was fired. Tiffany returned the ring. And I booked a solo trip to Colorado. For the first time in years, I could breathe. 3 months had passed. I was back in Austin, sipping iced coffee at a quiet bookstore cafe when I got a message from a name I never thought I'd see again. Jason. My heart didn't skip a beat. It sank like a stone. The message was short, cold, calculated. I know what you did. Hope it was worth it. No apology, no regret, just venom. I stared at it, hands steady. A year ago, I might have cried, but now I smirked. Because yes, Jason, it was worth it. Every sleepless night, every tear. Every moment I spent doubting my sanity. I replied with a single sentence. Truth always comes out. Some just take longer to drown in it. Then I blocked him. A few days later, Tiffany called me from Tampa. He's moved on, she said. Already dating someone new. Poor girl has no idea. I didn't feel anger. I felt sadness. Not for him, but for every woman who'd ever believe his lies. You think we should warn her? Tiffany asked. I paused. Took a deep breath. No, I said. She'll find out, just like we did. And when she does, I hope she finds someone to sit across from her and say, "You're not crazy," because that's what Tiffany had done for me. And that's what I would do someday for the next girl. After months of silence, the truth finally exploded. Jason's carefully built facade crumbled when the news hit the local headlines. Jason Miller arrested for fraud and embezzlement. The man who once held my trust, shattered it beyond repair, was now a headline story, caught in his own web of lies. I saw it everywhere, on my social media feed, in coffee shop conversations, even whispered in the hallways of my office building. But instead of feeling victorious, I felt empty. All the anger I bottled up, the sleepless nights spent planning revenge, they suddenly seemed meaningless. What I really wanted was closure. So I reached out to Tiffany. "We need to meet," I said. We met at a quiet park bench overlooking Lady Bird Lake, the sun setting behind the city skyline, casting long shadows over our past. Tiffany smiled sadly. I thought this day would never come. We shared everything, the pain, the betrayal, the hope for a fresh start. It wasn't about Jason anymore. It was about us reclaiming our lives, rewriting the stories he tried to control. And as the city lights flickered on, I realized something. This wasn't the end. It was a new beginning.